Welcome back to Do Well in a Nutshell. I'm Avery.
And I'm Eden. So glad you're joining us today, as always. We love to dive deep into books that will help us all just do a little bit better in life.
Absolutely. And today we've got a really interesting one. It's called How to Talk to Yourself from Self-Doubt to Self-Confidence by Ro Mitchell.
I think this book is so incredibly relevant right now, wouldn't you say? I mean, with social media and just, everything going on, it feels like more and more people are just grappling with that inner critic, that little voice that sometimes just isn't very kind.
Totally, Eden. It's like in a world that constantly tells us who or what we should be, it's easy to lose sight of how we're actually speaking to ourselves on a daily basis. And Ro Mitchell really tackles that head on.
Yeah, she really does. And I think that's the absolute core premise of her book. Ro Mitchell is firm in her belief that our internal self-talk, literally how you speak to yourself in your head, profoundly shapes your confidence, your overall well-being, and even your satisfaction with life itself.
Right. It's not just a fleeting thought. It's really, I don't know, it's almost like the foundation of how you feel about yourself and everything around you, isn't it? Like if you're constantly putting yourself down, it's bound to affect everything.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding the negative, though that's a big part of it. It's also about actively identifying those unhelpful inner voices, those narratives we tell ourselves that just aren't serving us, and then transforming them.
Yeah, transforming them is key because the goal, according to Mitchell, is to cultivate real self-belief, genuine self-kindness, and just, a mindset that's genuinely geared for growth. It's not about being perfectly positive all the time, but about building something sustainable.
Which, is a huge shift for a lot of people, myself included sometimes. It's about being an active participant in your own internal dialogue, not just letting those automatic thoughts run wild.
So, okay, picking up on that point about being an active participant, the first key theme Mitchell introduces is all about awareness, right? Just noticing your inner dialogue. It sounds simple, but it's actually really profound.
Yeah, it's about pausing, taking a step back, and actually listening to what's going on in your head. Because for so many of us, especially, when those negative patterns kick in, it's just automatic. We don't even realize we're tearing ourselves down or, being super critical.
Totally. It's almost like background noise, you just get so used to it. And then suddenly, you realize how much space it's taking up and how much it's actually affecting you. And Ro really emphasizes paying attention to those negative thoughts specifically.
Right, because once you're aware of it, that's when you can actually do something about it. And that leads directly into her second big theme, which is challenging that inner critic, that voice that tells you you're not good enough or you're going to mess up.
Oh, yeah. That voice is definitely a common one for, I think, most people. And it's not just about ignoring it, is it? Ro really gives practical exercises for how to really question it and reframe that self-doubt, because it's not always true what that voice is saying.
No, it's usually not true at all, actually. And she talks about looking at the evidence. Is what your inner critic saying actually based on facts, or is it just an old story you're telling yourself? It's about becoming a detective for your own thoughts.
I love that, a thought detective, because, so often our inner critic is just repeating something we heard years ago or a fear that, isn't even relevant anymore. And being able to kind of disarm it by questioning it is so powerful.
It really is. It shifts you from being a passive recipient of these negative thoughts to being an active challenger. And that's where the real change starts to happen in terms of building, that self-confidence.
Absolutely. And, once you've started challenging that inner critic, Roe doesn't just leave you there, right? She moves into like the proactive part, cultivating positive self-talk. It's about like actively building yourself up.
Yeah, it's not just about stopping the bad stuff, but actually, adding in the good. And she talks a lot about tools like affirmations, which I know some people might roll their eyes at, but when you use them correctly and consistently, they can be really powerful.
For sure. It's not just like looking in the mirror and saying I'm amazing if you don't believe it. It's about really connecting with them, finding affirmations that resonate and using them to kind of like rewire your brain. And journaling, too, is such a big part of that.
Oh, journaling is huge. I mean, Roe talks about it as a way to support that new constructive dialogue, right? It's a space where you can explore your thoughts, celebrate small wins, and really, reinforce those positive narratives you're trying to build. It's like a private conversation with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because when you start building that up, that self-kindness, it actually helps with another massive theme she covers, overcoming social comparison. Because when you're good with yourself, you're less likely to measure yourself against others.
That is so true. It's almost like a natural byproduct. Like when your focus shifts inward and you're really working on that self-belief, the urge to constantly check what everyone else is doing, it just lessens. And Roe gives some really practical advice on how to really stop that habit of comparing yourself.
She does. And it's not easy, right? Especially with social media constantly throwing everyone's highlight reel in your face. But she emphasizes appreciating your own path, recognizing your unique strengths, and realizing that, everyone's on their own journey and it's okay for yours to look different.
It's more than okay. It's the whole point. And that's such a freeing concept, to just be my journey is mine and it's valid regardless of what anyone else is doing. It's a huge step towards true self-acceptance.
It really is. And I think flowing right from that, true self-acceptance, Roe also delves into something equally important, self-forgiveness and acceptance of, imperfection, which, wow, that's a tough one for so many of us, myself included.
Oh, for sure. It's letting go of that constant need to be perfect, isn't it? That relentless pursuit of flawlessness that just exhausts you. Rose's whole point is, treat yourself like a friend. You wouldn't expect your friend to be perfect, so why expect it from yourself?
Exactly. And that perspective shift is so powerful because when you look at it that way, it's oh yeah, I would offer my friend grace. So why am I so stingy with it when it comes to myself? And it ties into the idea of, letting go of the past mistakes too.
Yeah, it's about not dwelling on things, but learning and moving forward with kindness. And speaking of moving forward, another really important part of the book is how Roe talks about building healthy habits, but it's not about being super strict or anything.
No, not at all. It's all about sustainable change, which I love. It's not about hitting a massive goal overnight, but encouraging change through what she calls kind discipline.
Kind discipline. I love that phrase. It's about showing up for yourself in a gentle, consistent way, isn't it? Small steps that you can actually stick to rather than, trying to overhaul your entire life in one go and then burning out.
Yeah, exactly. It's about making choices that align with your growth, but doing it in a way that feels supportive and manageable rather than like a chore. So it really reinforces that overall message of cultivating inner kindness for long-term personal change. It's not just a quick fix.
Speaking of kind discipline and all these amazing concepts, one thing I really appreciate about Roe Mitchell's approach in this book is how incredibly personal and relatable it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she weaves in her own recovery story, which it makes it feel so authentic, right? It's not just theoretical advice from on high. It's hey, I've been there and this is what helped me.
Yeah, exactly. And that I think really resonates with readers because you feel like she's walking the talk. And it's not just her story either. It's also so practical and interactive. There are actual exercises and reflective questions built right in.
Oh, yeah, those are great. It's not one of those books you just read passively. You actually have to, do the work, which I think is essential for anything to really stick. Those reflective questions really make you pause and think about your own inner dialogue.
Yeah, it's not just a read, it's an experience almost. And that brings us to who do you think this book is really for? Because, it's pretty clear it's not just a general self-help book.
Definitely not. I think it's particularly well-suited for anyone, really, who's been struggling with self-doubt or, a harsh inner critic. We've all got one of those to some degree, but for some people, it's just relentless.
Mm-hmm. And for people who are, actively looking for emotional well-being and mindset growth, it's not for someone who just wants to dabble. This is for someone who's ready to dig in and, do some of that internal work.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it's probably super accessible for anyone who already follows Ro Mitchell's online content too, because she already has that community. It's like a natural extension of her work.
So, after going through all that, Avery, what's your final take? Really, what are your overall impressions of how to talk to yourself?
Oh, Eden, I think it's such a nurturing, hands-on guide. It really does feel like Ro Mitchell is holding your hand as you navigate, reshaping that inner dialogue.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not preachy at all, is it? It's just very supportive. And do you think it successfully delivers on that promise of moving from self-criticism to self-confidence? Because that's the big question, right?
I do. I really do. I think for anyone who puts in the work, engages with those exercises and reflections we talked about, it definitely offers a very clear and supportive path. Especially, like we said, if you're already familiar with her social media content, it just clicks.
Yeah, it's very accessible in that way. So, final recommendation time. Who absolutely needs to read this book, in your opinion?
Well, if you're someone who's tired of that relentless negative self-talk or, just feeling stuck in a loop of self-doubt, then honestly, give this a try. It's a solid, practical resource for building a kinder relationship with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for that shift from, being your own worst critic to your own best friend, I think this book really offers the tools for that. It's not a magic fix, but it's a really good starting point.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Do Well in a Nutshell. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And seriously, if anything we talked about today resonated with you, definitely check out Ro Mitchell's How to Talk to Yourself, From Self-Doubt to Self-Confidence. It's really worth the read.
Absolutely. It's a great practical guide.
Thanks, Avery. I've really enjoyed our take on this well-thought-out book.
Me too. So, from Eden and myself, Avery, thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time on Do Well in a Nutshell.
Bye for now.